Emilio Adami, and we represent Anglo Youth. And let me back to the beginning of our presentation. I'm sorry, it's halfway. So it started, we've been asked to give an impulse speech on what actually do we intend by lead by example, and what are our examples. So it's actually, last night we were discussing, well, not only last night, but in the past days, and last night we had a very intense conversation about this, and what we perceive as leading by example. And we asked each other, what do you, Nevena, what do you understand, and what are your examples? How do you perceive your examples important in your daily work, in your daily work as a youth worker, because we are a youth organization that promotes sports for young people, sports and physical activity. So we will then talk about what actually we do, but the conversation started that way. And actually I was very impressed because Nevena came up with some very good example of what it's inspiring for her. And I want to say.
Yes, thank you, Paolo. Well, I really enjoyed the last night conversation with you. It has been an example of the good conversation for giving the lead to some future ideas. For me, if you ask me, I would say I would recognize 3 points that happen like wide around the world. First, it's an example that really drives me. It's about Kenyan athletes, women athletes, who has participated in one of the events, the running competition that has been organized in Kenya. And after that has been the opportunity for them to receive the award, to receive the money for their living, to receive the funding for continuing their exercise and development as an athletes. And the best 3 of them who came to the final finish line, at the moment when they were receiving this award, they said, well, you know, we don't want to take the award for ourselves. We don't want to take the money for ourselves. We did this path through sports so that we could give the award to those who had less than us. So the Kenyan women, who even themselves doesn't have a lot, they passed it on through their sport engagement. So for me, that has been, as a former athletic runner, that has been something that that drives me and moves me. The second thing that I've been thinking of, and also in the light of the recent started historic cooperation within the UN and the IOC, has been the Sport for Hope Center last year launched at Haiti. Together, it's a historic example, together with the United Nations and the International Olympic Committee. And which is most important for also our discussion here, we together with the Haitian community. So there now the people of the Haiti, the youth, the children of Haiti, the government, the whole community can not only do the sports, but also learn about the Olympic values, learn about the UN values, also learn about the good education, not formal education examples that sport is giving. And then coming back to Europe, where European Non-Governmental Sports Foundation is based, we have an example from the committee member of the EXO Youth, Michael Lendecke from Germany, who couldn't stand still while watching the young people coming as refugees to Europe and quitting their education and doing nothing for the moment because of the war. And then he initiated all the youth from Germany, from the Olympic movement, to sit down, to think what can be the action, what can be the example that they can give to the community to do something. And then they first created an idea of providing the sports dictionary for the sports workers who can meet for the first time the refugees, the young refugees who come to the sport clubs, to schools, to the Olympic Committee, for example, or association, and say, I want to join, so that they can meet them in their own language, but not only in the Arabic language, but also in the language of all the transiting countries around on their path, Germany or the UK. And this app is going to be, then they found sponsors, so that they found the people who actually understand the importance and the idea of this app, and that they're going to support this example, to lead them by giving the opportunity for the young people to provide the opportunity for younger young people. So Paolo, I mean, for me that has been the like 3 highlights of the good examples.
I think it's what I was really impressed at that she came up with these 3 good examples, and and we started thinking, you know, as youth workers, as a youth organization, how does this has an impact on us? So we started by simply yeah. It's not working.
It's not working. It's not working.
We have the end. Okay. I'm sorry about that. We're at the end of the presentation. We were at the beginning. I really apologize for that. Okay. So we started with doing some math. Let's go. So we started doing some math. Purely equation. So if it's equation, as I, and we started saying, okay, what does inspire us? And she came up with these 3 great examples of a really practical project that do have some kind of outcome, social outcome. And then I said, okay, but what are we making of it? So it's a kind of, you have an example, then you have to do something out of that. And because hopefully it will have then a 3rd part which has some impact. And if the path goes on and everything is smooth, then fine. And that's actually how we try to work within our youth organization. So what we believe in Angso Youth is that sport is a tool for social change. And we want to make sure that sport is the common language among young people and that is shared. But I'm not talking only about sport, structured sport as you can imagine, but also physical activity, any kind of body movement, as the WHO likes to call, generalize in terms of activity. So physical activity, exercise, whatever that brings people together in movement, and of course sport for all has a massive impact on that. So we believe sport is the key tool. It overcomes barriers, it overcomes languages, differences, cultural differences, and so on. So, very good example of how we try to promote this kind of perception of how sport is a tool. It's, of course, promoting physical activity for the health enhancement, which it's been huge lately, the past 15, 20 years so far, and a very good example of how this can be done at all levels. And I think Europe is a very interesting place where things are changing fast. Another way is spreading the importance of the values that can be achieved through sport and volunteering in sport. Volunteers that volunteer in youth organizations, sport organizations do acquire a lot of values and expertise, capacities that they won't be able to acquire in other settings. So sport can be really enriching in that sense. It gives a lot to those who are participating, are committed on a voluntary basis. And then another aspect that we deeply believe in, no, but we do believe in, I'm sorry. No. Next one, it's the co-determination, democratic participation and social inclusion through sport. So there are other ways that sport can be used for other objectives that indeed have a social impact, so including young people with disabilities perhaps, or young people that come from very diverse background situations like migrants or difficulty, social situation, economic situation, all the things that you can imagine. And so just to sum up, but to visualize what we do, is that if you think of a jar, and our organization is a jar, there are a lot of things that we can come up with, no?
There are a lot of things, and actually, while we're sitting here, just in the room next door to us, there is the full youth committee of young representatives coming from different European countries, delegated by different Olympic committees for sport associations who are actually dealing with this exo-youth jar, dealing with the jar of the youth and sport. And not only dealing, but they are inspired really to give an example, to give an impact to the society. So we are making different projects also for gender equality, but also for mixity, which is important when we are speaking about gender equality. We are developing different action and calling on the other sectors and cross-sectoral cooperation regarding the sustainable development, regarding the youth participation, regarding the structured dialogue, which is very important if we are speaking about the communities and examples that families and communities can give towards the sport field and towards the youth field. This exo-youth jar is perceived among at least the region of Europe as the good example of the synergy of youth and sport, as a mediator between the youth and sport. But also, when we are speaking on the global level, this exo-youth jar is the only example on the global level for the youth and sport synergy. And that's why we've been asked that all these ingredients that are coming out from the jar we present at the United Nations summits last year in Sri Lanka, this year in New York, to be part of different dialogues that are ongoing. We believed that this jar is designed to move these communities and families.
Well, it's very interesting, and one of the reasons that we're so engaged and so passionate about this thing is because we're the only youth-led organization up to 35. We might look younger, but we're 35 still. And back and forth, I'm sorry. But so we're the only youth-led organization that deals directly with youth. So it's a peer-to-peer work. And just to the next step, what would be? You all received a white piece of paper, I guess. There is a reason for that. You can make airplanes out of that if you like. But actually, we would like to ask you to come up with an example that's been very important for you, that somehow inspired your, I don't know, it could be your work, it could be your professional life, it could be your attendance to this conference, or an outcome, perhaps, of the conference that you attended so far. And we will collect that, and we will then use it. As you know, social media are getting very important, so we will use it, tweet it. So you can follow up, because there's already things that have been going on these days with the hashtag link by examples. So that we will tweet that, and you can follow up what's going on and what are the examples that people are coming up with. I'm saying 5 words because it has to be a tweetable length. So please try to stick to those. But I mean, if you manage to count 140 characters, it's still fine.
But as we saw, you are actually physically active with your finger. That's why you're doing it.
It's an experiment at this point.
Yeah, but maybe it would be good that now you introduce the next speakers that will have.
So
the speakers that are already giving an example.
Yeah, so we have 4 actually very interesting examples. Actually, one has been changed recently. We were not updated soon enough to change the presentation, but we have one presentation from the University of, what used to be supposed to be in the program from the University of Macau. Unfortunately, won't be here. Then we have one presentation, and they would be replaced by a presentation from India, I've been told. The first one, yes, I'm sorry, the first one. Then we will have a presentation by Brian Dixon, Latvia, Australia, Wake Up Australia. We will have a presentation coming from Saudi Arabia, Sabal Khair. Attitudes of male college students towards physical activity and physical education curriculum by Mohammed Abdan Hashem in Bath University. And then closing the survey and development of sport for all in Hungarian university sport by Mozart Sheket. I hope I pronounced it.
To come back to the first piece of paper, the yellow one I think it was, the minister has been replaced by the lady coming from India, Mrs. Anita.
Okay, there's been some movement, but that's just to get active, and it's an active session. So this is actually what's been going on in the Twitter, lead by example, so you're very welcome to tweet yourself, but we would like to collect the white piece of paper with your inspirational thoughts, and we will tweet it for you, and you can just read it, and we'll keep the circle going on and active. This was perhaps 20, half an hour ago. We just did a screenshot. So I hope that somehow we managed to give an impulse, or at least to give some movement to the start of this session, and we'll be here throughout the not only session but the day, and very welcome to answer any questions or further explore possible areas of development in this field.
And remember, it's not only about Twitter, but actually it's important that when we go out of this room, that we continue these brainstormings and conversations among ourselves and the community and with families, that the leading by example becomes reality and something.
Thank you very much.